The retirement trap nobody warns you about. Walk into Gary's house, and you'll find a man who did everything right. Or at least everything he was told was right. He bought a house in 1998, raised 2 kids, never missed a mortgage payment, got promoted twice at the manufacturing company he's been at for 31 years. Takes 1 vacation a year, Florida, same rental house, same week in March. His truck is paid off. His lawn is mowed. His credit score is 780. Gary is 61. He's tired. His knees hurt from standing on a factory floor for 3 decades. He's been mentally checking out since Tuesday. And 2 weeks ago, his financial advisor, the one he's seen exactly 4 times in 30 years, sat him down and showed him a number. $194,000. That's what Gary has saved for retirement, after 31 years of working, after doing everything he thought you were supposed to do. His advisor told him he needs at least $1.2 million to retire comfortably. Gary laughed. Then he stopped laughing. Then he drove home in silence and didn't tell his wife for 3 days. Now walk into Dennis's situation, not his house, because Dennis retired at 58 and bought a condo in Scottsdale he always wanted. Dennis made less than Gary for most of his career. Never got the big promotion. Drove a used Camry until 2019. His coworkers thought he was cheap. His 401k thought he was a genius. Dennis has $1.4 million sitting in index funds. He barely looks at anymore. Same era, same middle-class American life, completely different ending. This video is about how Gary happened, because Gary is not an unlucky person. Gary is not a stupid person. Gary is the median American, and the median American is walking into a retirement that doesn't work, and almost nobody is saying it out loud clearly enough. My name is your name, and I've spent way too long running the math on why retirement feels like a finish line for some people and a cliff for others. If you're somewhere in your 30s, 40s, or 50s, and the retirement number in your head feels fuzzy, stay here. Because today we're going to make it very, very clear. First, let's establish how bad it actually is, because most people don't know. The Federal Reserve's 2024 survey of consumer finances found that the median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is $185,000. Not mean, median. Half of people within 10 years of retirement have less than $185,000 saved. The widely cited retirement income target, based on replacing 70–80% of your pre-retirement income, for a median American household comes out to roughly $1.02 to $1.4 million. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. $185,000 at 4% withdrawal rate, the standard safe withdrawal model, generates $7,400 a year, not a month, a year. That's $616 a month from a lifetime of saving. Social Security adds something. The average monthly benefit in 2024 was $1,907. So you're looking at roughly $2,500 a month total for someone who worked 30 years and did what they were told. The MIT Living Wage Calculator puts the living wage for a single adult in most U.S. cities between $3,200 and $4,800 a month. The math doesn't work, and it's not going to fix itself by the time they get there. This is happening to people who made decent money, people who weren't reckless, people who genuinely believed they were on track because nobody ever sat them down and showed them the number clearly until it was almost too late. So how does a person work for 30 years and end up with $185,000? It doesn't happen all at once. It happens through 5 traps so ordinary, so woven into normal American life, that most people never see them as traps at all. Trap 1, they started late and never fully understood what that cost them. Gary started contributing to his 401k at 32, not because he was irresponsible at 22. Because nobody told him the math, and at 22 he had student loans and rent, and a car payment and retirement felt like a problem for a different version of him. Here's what starting at 22 versus 32 actually costs, not in percentage points, in real money. $300 a month starting at 22, growing at 10% until 65, $1.86 million. $300 a month starting at 32, same rate, same endpoint, $678,000. Same contribution, same rate, 10 years difference, $1.18 million gap. That 10 years, where Gary was paying off student loans and figuring his life out, cost him more than $1 million. Not because he spent it, because he didn't let compound interest have it early enough. The brutal truth about compounding is that the first decade does more work than the last 3 decades combined. The money you put in at 22 is infinitely more valuable than the money you put in at 52. And most Americans figure this out at 52. Gary always planned to catch up later. Later came. The math said it was too late to fully catch up. That's not a personal failure, that's just arithmetic. Trap 2, they treated their $401k like a savings account they could borrow from. Gary cashed out a $401k in 2008 when he switched jobs. It wasn't a lot, $22,000. But he paid the 10% early withdrawal penalty, the income taxes on top of it, and then spent the rest on a truck down payment. Here's what $22,000 at 35 years old, left alone until 65 at 10% growth, becomes $384,000. He paid a penalty to convert $384,000 of future money into a truck down payment. The IRS assessed $880 billion in early retirement account withdrawals between 2010 and 2023. That's not a financial statistic. That's a generational wealth transfer from American workers' retirement accounts into current consumption, and the penalty and tax bill they paid to make it happen. Every time someone cashes out a $401k between jobs, takes a hardship withdrawal or borrows against it and doesn't fully repay, they're not just taking money out. They're removing the seed corn, the part that was going to grow. Gary did it once, he doesn't remember the truck. Trap 3, their lifestyle grew exactly as fast as their income. Dennis and Gary both got raises over the years, decent ones. The difference was one thing: what happened in the 90 days after each raise. Gary's raises went to a bigger apartment, then a house payment, then a boat he used 6 times, then private school for the kids when the public school was actually fine, then the truck, then a kitchen renovation that made complete sense at the time. Every raise produced a corresponding lifestyle upgrade that consumed the entire raise within 3 months. This is not a character flaw, this is hedonic adaptation, the brain's documented tendency to normalize every new baseline in about 90 days. The bigger apartment is exciting in March. By June, it's just where you live. The raise that paid for it is now fully committed. Dennis did one thing differently. Every single time he got a raise before the first new paycheck arrived, he increased his $401k contribution. His lifestyle never learned what it was supposed to get, so it never missed it. Over a 30-year career, Dennis invested roughly $210,000 in additional contributions from raise interceptions alone. At 10% compounded, that $210,000 became approximately $580,000 of his retirement balance. Gary's raises became a boat he doesn't use and a kitchen he likes, but couldn't tell you the exact cost of any more. Trap 4, they owned a home but thought of it as an investment instead of a cost. This one is complicated because the framing around homeownership in America is almost entirely wrong, and it costs people their retirement. Gary bought a house for $180,000 in 1998. It's worth $420,000 today. He looks at that and thinks, I made $240,000, I'm fine. Let's run the actual math. Mortgage interest over 30 years on that house, roughly $168,000. Property taxes at an average of $3,500 a year for 26 years, $91,000. Maintenance and repairs at the standard 1-2% of home value per year, roughly $85,000. Insurance over 26 years, $31,000. Total cost of owning that house, approximately $555,000. It's worth $420,000. The house didn't build wealth. The house consumed wealth while providing shelter, which is what a house is supposed to do. But Gary's mental model said, my house is my retirement plan. So when he thought about retirement savings, he felt cushioned. The cushion wasn't there. It was equity he could only access by selling his home or taking on more debt. Dennis owned a house too, a smaller one, with a lower payment that left margin. He never thought of it as an investment. He thought of it as the place where he lived, and he invested the difference between his payment and what he could have borrowed. The house isn't the problem. The narrative around the house is the problem. Trap 5. They never had one honest conversation about the actual number. This is the one that bothers me the most. Gary saw a financial advisor 4 times in 30 years. Each meeting lasted 45 minutes. Most of it was paperwork and pleasantries. Nobody ever sat him down and said, "Gary, here is what you actually need. Here is what you actually have. Here is what the gap is right now in real dollars. Here is what it will cost you per month starting today to close it." Nobody showed Gary the cliff until he was close enough to see it himself. A 2023 survey by Northwestern Mutual found 36% of Americans have no retirement savings at all. Of those who do save, the majority couldn't accurately estimate how much they'd need in retirement within a $200,000 range. People are driving toward a destination with no map and a foggy windshield, not because they don't care, because nobody handed them the map in plain language and said, "Here's where you are, here's where you need to be, here's the road." The financial industry profits more from complexity than clarity. The more confusing it feels, the more dependent you stay on advisors who charge fees, products that carry commissions, and a system that benefits from your inertia. So what does Dennis know that Gary didn't? Not more. He knew the same things. He just acted on them earlier. He started his 401k at 23, small contributions, but early. He never cashed it out between jobs. He rolled it over every time. He intercepted every raise before his lifestyle could claim it. He bought a house that left him margin instead of the maximum the bank approved. And once a year, every January, he sat down for 20 minutes, looked at his actual number, compared it to his target, and adjusted. 20 minutes a year, for 35 years. That's 11 hours of active retirement planning across his entire career. $1.4 million. Here's the number that should keep you up at night, and the one that should calm you down. If you're 35 and you have nothing saved, $500 a month starting today at 10% until 65 is $1.13 million. The game is not over. If you're 45 and you have nothing saved, $1,200 a month starting today at 10% until 65 is $916,000. Harder, but possible. If you're 55 and you're looking at a Gary situation, the math is tighter. But a combination of catch-up contributions, downsizing the house, eliminating every non-essential expense, and working 3-4 more years than planned can still change the outcome meaningfully. The worst thing you can do with this information is feel bad about it and close the video. The second worst thing is wait until next month to do anything. The cliff doesn't appear at once, and it doesn't disappear at once either. It moves based on what you do or don't do this month and every month after. Gary is sitting at a kitchen table tonight trying to figure out how to tell his wife the real number. Dennis is in Scottsdale. The condo has a pool. He's reading a book. His phone has one financial app on it, and it shows a number that means he never has to do anything he doesn't want to do again. Same American life, same middle-class salary range, completely different last chapter. The difference wasn't luck, it wasn't income. It was 5 traps that Gary never saw coming and Dennis avoided, one boring decision at a time. If this math hit differently than you expected, like and subscribe. Every week I take a financial topic that feels complicated and run the actual numbers until it makes sense. Drop in the comments what financial question you want me to break down next. I'll make it as clear and unsexy as this one.